Welcome to Stab the Dragon Productions for episode number 208. This is a Whiskey Holiday Special Edition celebrating St. Patrick's Day, Part 2. Last week, we started looking at Teeling whiskey for an Irish whiskey examination during St. Patrick's Day, March. And Teeling was amazing. Teeling small batch. That is now my favorite, but will Jameson, which we're going to look at today, will this take over? I don't know. We'll see. For whatever reason, Irish whiskey has not been one of my favorites. I started with regular Jameson, 10 years ago or so. It was highly recommended. It was the #1 selling brand of Irish whiskey in the world, and I was not impressed. And then about 3 years ago, I got a bottle of the Jameson Caskmate Stout Edition, and that became an instant favorite. So, of course, it went out of production. Tonight, though, this is March 17th, 2025, and it is 84 degrees here in Fort Worth, and so we're going to return to Jameson, but this black bottle, Black Barrel. Will this convince me to like Irish whiskey? My outline for how I do whiskey reviews is I give an intro, then the basic facts about the bottle and whiskey, tasting notes, my score, a letter grade that stresses drinkability, and a recommendation, all in the first 5 minutes. Then I go into the details of my scoring, a bit of history for this holiday edition, and I close with a cocktail. And today I will be reading a book from W.B. Yeats, Irish Fairy Tales and Folklore. And I've chosen a poem by William Allingham. So we'll look at that at the end. Right now, just the facts. Jameson is a triple distilled blended whiskey, weighing in at 80 proof, but there's a little controversy about that we'll get to in a little bit. This whiskey is a blend of Irish grain and single malt, but the website says this has a little bit more single malt than the basic version. There's no age statement, so some of this is 3 years old and some much older. Jameson Black is called black because they use used bourbon barrels, of course, but they have recharred some of those barrels. While this whiskey normally sells for the low to mid 40s in Fort Worth, I bought this at a small store in a small town called Hyco in Texas. Paid about $50. It was a friend's. I knew the owner. And once in a while you got to support the little guy, right? So I paid $50 for this. Tasting notes, a bit of sweetness. I occasionally got a slight taint of ethanol, but not bad. Maybe some shortbread, I think. Citrus lemon, hints of vanilla for sure. Overall pleasant, actually quite drinkable. Better than my memories of regular Jameson easily. So this is an easy and pleasant sipper. It got better the further down the glass that I went. A pleasant surprise, really. This is a keeper. I would never turn down a glass if offered, nor would I turn down a bottle if offered, even if I didn't have room in my cabinet. My score for this whiskey was an 86. My letter grade is an A. Recommendation. If you want to really try a decent Irish whiskey and you can afford the $20 more than the regular Jameson, I highly recommend this. Absolutely. Will I keep this always on my shelf? I don't know. Maybe so. I mean, I don't keep many whiskeys around. I mean, I try a bunch, and then the bottle lasts for however long it lasts. A couple of years or 3 years or 4. So that's my recommendation. Let's get to the details. History. John Jameson started the company in 1780. He was a Scot by birth, born in 1740. Immigrated to Dublin, Ireland in the 1770s. And along the way, as he's making whiskey to avoid a tax, he experimented with using both malted and unmalted barley, as taxes were very high on malt. Government gets in the way. Obviously, that's what they do. John Jameson II, his son, took over the Bow Street Distillery in 1804, and he expanded the business, grew it. And he left notes about the mash bill that we have, apparently. John Jameson III right? He took over in 1851. He was involved with politics as well as whiskey. Justice of the Peace, High Sheriff, prominent member of Dublin society. He went to college at Trinity College. John Jameson IV took over in 1875. Now, he had no son. So in 1891, he had the company incorporated as John Jameson and Son Limited. In 1901, King Edward VII issued a royal warrant to Jameson, and I think with a coat of arms, there we go. Now we can see that. The distillery closed from 1917 to 1918 during the war, World War I. There was a shortage of coal, shortage of corn, workers. In those years, the Spanish flu swept through the area and killed lots of people. And so they had a shortage of everything. And then in the following year, American Prohibition kicks in, right? 1919. So that lasted until 1933. Then in 1939, the Second World War kicked in and more production problems and shortages. In 1941, George Lionel Jameson took the helm, the great-grandson of the founder. And in 1961, Alexander Crichton, I think is the name, a descendant of the founder, took over and led to merging with a couple of other distilleries to form Irish Distillers Limited. So here's a funny thing. Jameson did not start bottling their own whiskey until 1963. I guess they contracted that out. By 1975, they had simply outgrown the Bow Street Distillery in Dublin and moved it to Middleton, County Cork, and the new facility. In 1997, they renovated and repaired the Bow Street Distillery, turning it into the Visitor Center. And today, sadly, Jameson is owned by Pernod Ricard, the French. It is still the leading Irish whiskey by sales in the world, and it's so far ahead that you could add up all the sales of all the other whiskey companies and still be ahead. But surprisingly, the leading Irish whiskey in Ireland is Jameson. Of course it is. So history, 5 points. Bottle, label, and marketing. This, I think, is a classy bottle. Very nice label. It's got some Latin in there. Sin metu, without fear, explains the bottle also explains the double charred process on the back there. It's got a real cork. There we go. Let's pour. It's got some embossing down here. Look at this guy here. I don't know if you can tell what that is. Yeah, that's a guy. It's a man figured, and it's called Barrel Man. It's embossed in there, and that's one of their signature things. You know, it's to honor the workers, the average Joe who works there. So it's really a pretty nice bottle and label. I like the black there to go with the title of the whiskey. I mean, Black Barrel. So it's, you know, really very impressive bottle and nice label. How about advertising? I don't recall seeing any Jameson advertisements, but Jameson's kind of ubiquitous. Every place that sells liquor has it. I mean, every bar, every restaurant. So maybe I've seen some Jameson advertisements, but nothing sticks out. So I had to research that. And they had some commercials from 12 or 15 years ago that were really kind of funny. Well done, I thought. And it kind of takes you back in time to John Jameson and some things that he did, you know. So if you research that online, I mean, they're very well done. Nice commercials, funny. There's a commercial from 2022 that had a distinctly un-Irish DEI tone, representing the new sad facts of Ireland, I guess. So, you know, there you go. Politics once again. As much whiskey stuff as I do online, you'd have thunk that the algorithms would send me some of these internet ads, but they haven't. So for bottle label and marketing, 5 out of 5 points. Composition. According to the website, this is a blend of small batch grain whiskeys and single pot malt with a higher percentage of malt than the regular Jameson. Ages are all over the place as a blend, but 3-year minimum. Again, some of the barrels are twice charred, the ex-bourbon barrels. And that seems like a really good idea. And as an Irish whiskey, it's triple distilled. The website also says bottled at a high, here's the controversy. The website says bottled at a higher strength than our other whiskeys. But when I look at the ABV here, it says 40%, 80 proof. So what does higher strength mean if it's not talking about the proof? I don't know, but that's misleading and lack of clarity. So instead of getting all 15 points for composition, it's just 13. Appearance of the whiskey, that's a 3. 3 out of 5. Typical Irish whiskey is not going to be very dark like a Texas whiskey. This is a 3. Nosing. The website says butterscotch, fudge, creamy toffee, whatever. My nose is horrible. I can't hardly smell stuff. I smell a vague sweetness. Cheers. 7 points. 7 points is my standard score for nosing because my nose is inadequate. Tasting, though, the website says nutty notes in abundance, smooth sweetness of spice and vanilla. I get nothing nutty. Spiciness, that lingers. Sweetness, yeah. The only time I got the ethanol was like the first time that I drank this. And sometimes if you drink it wrong, I can get ethanol. So really, not much ethanol at all. This is not like Bushmills. Finish. Well, the taste. Really, this was a surprise. This is a keeper. I would never turn down a glass or a bottle. And so this is very good. I'm going to say 22 out of 25 points for taste. Definitely. The mouthfeel, burn and finish. Again, they're saying rich mouthfeel. I would agree with that. Intense toasted wood. Maybe. I think I get a little barrel char in there. I think so. Vanilla, yeah, I would agree with that. And I don't often get vanilla. Spiciness that lingers. There's a mild burn that is pleasant. And so, I like that. And the finish is, I think, lingering pretty long. It's a pleasant, it's mildly sweet on the finish. You get the spiciness that lingers. There's no severe burn that goes up in the sinuses or down in the chest. It's a mouth tingle, really. Actually, a perfect burn for an 80 proof whiskey. So mouthfeel, burn, and finish, 13 out of 15 points. Neat or mixer. This is very nice, neat, and I think it would go good in a cocktail. We're going to make a cocktail here in a little bit, but I'm giving it 5 points for neat or mixer. Price, value, and availability. Today in Fort Worth, Texas, $43.99 at Total Wine, $43.99 at Specs. Goody Goody had a sale for $41.99. No, their regular price was $41.99, but this week they've been having a sale for $39.99, and that's actually a really good price. $40 for this bottle. That's a good very good price. But $45 for this is still a good price, definitely. So, you know, when you look at the regular Jameson is going to be selling for $24.99, $26.28, $24.99. So this is essentially $20 more, and I think it's worth it. So good value on this, good availability on this. I see this everywhere, and I mean, I bought this bottle in Hyco, Texas, in the middle of the hill country. So price, value, and availability, then 9 out of 10 points. Bonus, I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 points for the Irish. Cheers. So that gives me a total score of 86, which actually is 1 point better than Teeling small batch. And I said that Teeling was probably going to be my favorite Irish whiskey. My point system is structured to where if you've got a good history and a good bottle and advertising and all that stuff, you can score more points. Both whiskeys got a solid A for drinkability, though. And I would have to do a contest between the two to see which one I like the better, but I really think it's Teeling. All right, so 86, letter grade A. My recommendation, again, for $20 more than regular Jameson, this whiskey is well worth it. Regular Jameson, I really don't recommend, as there's a lot better whiskeys at $25. But this one's at the $45 point, and for an Irish whiskey, this is really very good. It's got the distinctive Irish taste and feel with some bonus flavors, making it very good. So again, I wouldn't turn this one down. I would make room on my shelf for it. So that's my recommendation. We're going to take a break now and come back with a cocktail and read this Irish poem that I've got for St. Patrick's Day. So stand by. Okay, we are back. I've got some Canada Dry Ginger Ale, my Tom Collins glass loaded with ice. Pour in about a third of a glass of Canada Dry. Got a lime. I add just a little bit of lime juice. Toss that in there. A little bit more. Like that. Then I'm going to add Jameson. Like that. A little bit more. And top it off with some more Canada Dry. So I guess this is an Irish and ginger. There we go. And that is very delightful. Very refreshing. Certainly. It is a warm spring day here. So that is a perfect, simple cocktail for the occasion. So now I'm going to read from this book by Yates. Yates didn't write it. He's the editor. He put it together. So this goes back, I mean, this goes back 100 years probably. 1888. Yeah, 140 years. 1892, 1888. All right. The poem for St. Patrick's Day, Irish poem, The Fairies, by William Allingham. Up the airy mountain, down the rushy glen. We daren't go a-hunting for fear of little men. Wee folk, good folk, trooping all together, green jacket, red cap, and white owl's feather. Down along the rocky shore some make their home. They live on crispy pancakes of yellow tide foam. Some in the reeds of the Black Mountain Lake, with frogs for their watchdogs, all night awake. High on the hilltop the old king sits. He is now so old and gray he's nigh lost his wits. With a bridge of white mist Columkill he crosses on his stately journeys from Sheevlig to Rosses. Or going up with music on cold starry nights to sup with the queen of the gay northern lights. They stole little Bridget for 7 years long. When she came down again, her friends were all gone. They took her lightly back between the night and morrow. They thought that she was fast asleep, but she was dead with sorrow. They have kept her ever since, deep within the lake, on a bed of flag leaves, watching till she wake. By the craggy hillside, through the mosses bare, they have planted thorn trees for pleasure here and there. Is any man so daring as dig them up in spite? He shall find their sharpest thorns in his bed at night. Up the airy mountain, down the rushy glen, we daren't go a-hunting for fear of little men. Wee folk, good folk, trooping all together, green jacket, red cap, and white owl's feather. I haven't made much time for poetry in my life, and that's been a mistake. Well, this is Stab the Dragon Productions, out here.